Well, welcome back, everybody. And thank you so much to Sterl the Pearl. And thank you, New Jersey, because Sterl is the pride of New Jersey. He's the best DJ in New Jersey, probably in the best DJ in the tri-state area, if not the East Coast. And I don't know, I'm getting text messages from all up and down the East Coast saying we need to make him the official DJ of MPU. So I think we're going to have to bring this to a vote. You know how we love to vote in the National Parents Union. We might have to make this one official because you guys had a great time tonight. But I hope you had a great time all day. And I hope you enjoyed this incredible day of building skills, building solidarity, and ratifying our brand new bylaws for our organization. I hope you got a lot out of today and enjoyed our fun break with Sterl. And, just enjoyed this wonderful introduction to the National Parents Union. Well, this evening is only just getting started. And in just a few minutes, we're going to have an amazing conversation with Dr. Bernice King, followed by our award ceremony to honor the amazing parents that have done extraordinary work across the country this year. But first, I want to talk to you about someone who I consider a true sister in this fight. It's my great honor in this work to be able to witness some of the incredible power of parents and communities across this country who are doing extraordinary work. But there are a few who rose to a pretty extraordinary level of achievement on behalf of our children this year. And the Oakland Reach, under the incredible leadership of Lakisha Young, was set far apart. Because when the stay-at-home order was issued across California, Keisha Young, she didn't wait for the district in Oakland to come and save her and her kids. She didn't write a strongly worded op-ed. She didn't wait for some group of education experts to come in and tell her what to do. She rolled up her sleeves and she got to work because that's what she does. She created a vision for an Oakland citywide virtual family hub, a one-stop shop supporting families' economic survival and their children's educational success. It's a first of its kind model to make parents leaders in their children's education, and it launched in June 2020 with almost 200 families. The hub has been featured in local, national, and now international media everywhere from Time Magazine to KQED, BBC News, CNN. She's been everywhere. And she should be, because the work she's doing now across Oakland and frankly now across the country is extraordinary. She went to work on the ground and changed lives. And let me tell you something, she's just beginning. But Keisha is more than just these things. Just last week, I had the honor of attending an event held by the city of Oakland where she was honored as Mother of the Year for 2021 in that city. And I had the honor of listening to Keisha's mama talk about her work, but not through the lens of the Oakland Reach and all of these things and how many times she's been in the media, but just as being Keisha's mama and how her work has impacted her babies, Samira, Jalen, and Josiah, and the sacrifices that she's had to make their lives better, as well as kids all over Oakland. And she called Keisha the highlight of her life and her greatest joy. And that's the sacrifice that she's made so that she could improve the lives of children all across her community. And that is the beautiful gift of Keisha that we get to have here with us today. And she will lead us in this conversation. And I'm so very grateful that she will share this moment with us. So with that, please welcome my friend and a friend of children everywhere, Lakisha Young.
Thank you. I was not expecting that introduction, Carrie, at all, but I'm honored. I've been nervous all week and excited to talk to Dr. King, but I'm just truly humbled by your intro, Carrie, and so blessed that somehow the universe saw fit to bring us together across the country on so many panels and webinars. And I feel like our partnership and work has just begun. Carrie gave a great intro, but just for some of you guys who are joining, good evening. It's still the afternoon here in Oakland, California. But I'm Lakisha Young. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Oakland Reach. We wear yellow. Yellow is our color. It's our energy, it's our sun, it's our spirit, and that's who we are. And it's a blessing I have my family joining in today. My family is from Jim Crow South, Mississippi. So this moment right now and my opportunity to spend time with Dr. King is not just for me, it's for my whole family, who is just the epitome of rising above sometimes the station in which we were born. So as I introduce Bernice King, a woman who needs no introduction to most of you, I'm thinking about intergenerational leadership and about what it means for us as Black women. My grandmother, Shirley Pinkins, who is on this Zoom call right now, who again was born in Edwards, Mississippi, mom to my mom when she was 16 years old, and then mom to all of her children by the time she was 22, and then migrated from the South to the West Coast, just looking for a better opportunity, dreaming bigger for her children than even she was able to get for herself. And it was really the dreams of Shirley Pinkins that then passed on to Clara Young, that then passed on to me. A lot of times, we as Black women are called upon to deal with things and fix things and lead the way forward, whether we have the tools or not. Bernice King didn't choose her place as a leader. She didn't choose the movement or the work. It chose her. A lot of times the work chooses us, and we don't say yes or no. We lead because it's about something bigger than you. Bernice King has so much to offer us as someone who inherited the mantle of leadership from one of the most visible and esteemed movement leaders in history. I'm talking obviously about Coretta Scott King and her father too, and who now can pass on lessons to another generation. So for me, every second of this conversation counts. So I want to get to it. I want to welcome, while I spend time pretending like I'm in her living room, sitting down with her, I want to bring on Dr. Bernice King. Welcome, Dr. King.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Keisha.
We both said we were nervous, and we've been nervous all week. And you said something so powerful to me. You said, "Let's be nervous together."
Be nervous together.
And that was just
yes.
that was just that moment where I said, "This is what it's about." I now feel supported in this conversation. I really feel like I'm in your living room. Anything you would like to say before we just kind of jump in and chat a little bit?
No, I'm glad to be here, and just thank all of you for the tremendous work that you are doing, the invaluable service that you're giving to our young people and to this nation and world, because we know how vital parents are, and oftentimes it's a thankless place. But I want to salute you and celebrate you and honor you for the great sacrifices that you make on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for inviting me into this conversation. I'm not a parent, but I'm going to do my best and trying to provide some insight and inspiration to those of you who are parents. But I obviously have been parented, and I think for the most part, although I had a very busy. Well, I had busy parents, but in particular, my mom, because I was so young when my father was assassinated. I was only 5. Um, I think my mother did an outstanding job, and who I am today, outside of my personal relationship with Jesus Christ, I give credit to my mom.
Your mom was an amazing woman. That's why in the introduction is like, that's the woman who raised you. And,
Yes, you did.
just nurtured you to be who you are today. And I feel a strong connection as a Black woman, as you heard me say, just from my mom and my grandmother. And even I know one of my aunts are on here, my Aunt Betty, they all poured in, these Black women
Yes,
pouring in and loving and supporting us. They don't know just how much it means and why you and I are sitting here today, because someone sacrificed and poured into us, maybe even more than they were poured into. So you got to give back. You got to give back.
definitely.
So I want to jump in. I'm nosy. I'm a little nosy, and we want to learn from you and hear from you. So I have some questions, some things I want to just chat with you about, and then we have folks from all over the country who want to hear from you and get guidance from you. I think you heard Carrie say earlier, like, we're tired. It's been a long, long year, but it's been a long several years, just really trying to fight for our babies to get access to education. Education for me changed the game. Um, my ability to go to college and graduate from college. Now my daughter is heading to college, but I just told you my grandmother only finished ninth grade. So it takes a lot of work to get to this place. Um, and there's so many people out here fighting, so many mamas and daddies and grandmas out here fighting. And we're tired and we need help and we need guidance. So I really hope in this conversation, I think if I was over there, I don't drink coffee, but I'll probably drink a swig of tea with a little bit of vodka in it. And just we're just looking for some wisdom. So let me kick this off. So it's been more than 50 years since your father led the fight for civil rights in this country. He fought hard for the liberation of Black people. I wonder how he would feel that we are still fighting in 2021 for so many of the same things, the fundamentals of opportunity for our children. How can we get some wind beneath our wings in this fight in the coming years? No pressure, Dr. King, no pressure.
I appreciate that. Because a lot of times there is that pressure because of who my father was, and he still looms
Mm-hmm.
large with my mother. He's kind of still with us in so many ways. But one of the things I just want to say is the thing that I think really gave fuel to my both of my parents in this fight when oftentimes it got really dark was that infinite hope that we can never let go of, even as we're doing the work that we're doing. And it seems we may not be making any progress. The universe is very interesting because uh, there is a thing such as seed time and harvest time. And, you have to always realize when you're in the middle of that struggle that there will be a harvest from the seeds that you're sowing. And that is the hope that you hold on to. And you do that because you can refer to the past. I mean, there's so many things that we've had to come through in the past, from slavery, to Jim Crowism, lynchings, black codes, segregation, just all outright discrimination, people, burning down things that we had built economically. And yet, as African Americans, we're still, resilient. We're still moving forward, and we still made some progress. It is not like it used to be. I want to say that to people, although there are remnants from the past that are still with us, and there have been frontal attacks on voting rights and some of our civil rights, especially as it related to affirmative action. Um, at the end of the day, we still are in a different place. And I heard a leader in the business community say something that I don't think we reflect on enough. And that is, he said, we're in the room today. When my mother and father and them were leading that movement for civil and human rights in the mid 50s and 60s, we weren't in the room. we weren't in the state house, we weren't in the courthouses, we weren't um, we weren't even in the classroom in general. I mean, we had our school. We weren't in the classroom. We weren't in the on Capitol Hill. We weren't in the White House. We've now been in there twice. And physically, many of us have had access into the White House to help influence policy and decisions. And so I hold on to those kind of things as I'm fighting for the struggle, that the seed that I'm sowing today, there will be a harvest. Now, I may not get to see it myself. I may not get to experience the fullness of it, because my father didn't get to experience the fullness of the things that, he gave his life sowing seeds for. But it happens. So that infinite hope is so important in this struggle, to give you that wind beneath the wings. And frankly, this may sound like it can't give you wind, but it gave me wind when I kept wondering, why are we still where we are? You know, why does it seem like we there's this slow moving slow forward moving process? And my mother said something that gave me relief. It put in context struggle. She said, struggle is a never ending process. Freedom is never really
Mm.
won. You earn it and win it in every generation. And I say to people, look, every generation is called to the freedom struggle. And the key is for you to discover in your generation of time, what is that we are to contribute to the freedom struggle? Because at the end of the day,
Mm.
we can't contribute at all. Um, but there's something that we have to contribute, and know that we're part of that continuum of people who struggled before us, and we're continuing things that they were able to accomplish, and trying to help to preserve those things. And we're moving forward with some other things. Um, and I'm telling you, it provided such a relief for me when I came into contact with those words. I didn't know of those words when she was living. Um, but when I discovered them after her death, I was like, wow, this just relieves me now. It helps me to know that if we're where we are today, it's because we dropped the ball on being um, diligent. We got too complacent and comfortable for so many uh, years. And we can't do that. Every generation has to stay engaged. That's just real. And when we don't, it just makes it even harder for those of us who have to fight in that generation after those that did not do what was necessary.
Yeah, I mean, so much of what you just said, Dr. King, I literally I feel bricks coming off my shoulders. It's about recognizing that we are a part of the continuum, right? There is only so much work we can do, but we have to be intentional about passing that on so that the work continues. But we do
Mhm.
get into this work that we have to solve it all. And that, I think,
Mm,
makes us extremely weary. So I feel
mm,
like I literally just felt so many bricks come off my shoulders as I think about our work in Oakland and what's ahead of us. So I really, really thank you for that. And I thank your mom. I thank Coretta Scott King for telling you those words so you can pass those words down to us. Because one thing I know for sure is that our struggle is hard now, but the struggle that your mom and your dad led for us was something that I have no
yeah.
words.
I wasn't cut out for it. I can just tell you
You
that.
get that's what I'm saying.
I
That's what
wasn't
I'm
cut out
saying.
for what they went through at all. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, because the audience probably knows there's some questions that you all sent me, etc. But I have to attach this um, to our conversation right now, because I think it's so important. And I was going to say it later. Um, what personally helped me in my journey of being an activist is is two things. Going back to mom, one, and two, something I had to discover just experientially. And the first thing is, mom used to tell me as a kid, no, I won't say a kid, when I was like 18, 19, 20, 21, I was very engaged and active in many of the things that we were dealing with at that time around voting and the apartheid movement and so many other things. And I had to be everywhere, literally. It was like I couldn't miss this. I got to be there. I felt this burden, and my mother said to me, "Baby," she said, "Look, there's gonna always be problems in the world, and your time will come." Um, I didn't understand that until my recent, uh, till recently, because what she was going back to her statement, the struggle is a never-ending process. What she was telling me is, you don't have to feel over responsible for what's happening in this world. Do what you can when you can, you know, and there may be a time where you have to back off or disengage, but trust me, there will be some other opportunities where you're going to re-engage, but there'll be others there. She was relieving me, basically saying there are other people there. Even if you're not, there are other people there. So give yourself a break. And the second thing I had to learn experientially, and this is through my own faith, is there's not but one Savior, Jesus. So I had to deliver myself from this Messiah complex that I was the Savior of all of the problems that were happening in the world. If I was not there, I was not involved. If I stop, there's going to be a problem. And I had to realize, no, I'm not the Savior. Um, I have a role and responsibility. I have a calling, and I often say to audiences, um, you were born to answer a question or to solve a problem. And that's it. Um, you can't do it all. You can only do what you've been called to do, and that's what you remain faithful to. Because there's so many other people that have, they have their calling. And when we all are engaged in our calling and our purpose, maybe some of this that we're worried about, will begin to ease. Some of that is the problem too. Three kinds of people in the world. Uh, the few who get involved and make things happen, the many who sit on the sidelines and watch things happen, and the overwhelming majority who don't know what happened.
Mm.
And so if we could turn that around where it's not the few that's involved, then these problems that you're championing, that I'm championing, we wouldn't have to be as exhausted.
That's a powerful point, Dr. King. It really, really is. I hope everybody's out there listening. Dr. King says, no Messiah complexes. That's key. It's hard when so much is on our shoulders and everyone's looking to us to solve the problem. It's hard not to step into that in a way that is just, you can't sustain yourself as a leader. I think that is so important. And just giving ourselves a break. I want to keep going. You just given us so much in this little bit of time, and I have so many more questions. I also want to just ask the audience to forgive me. Dr. King and I are we're like in the back studio. And in this back studio, we can see the screen that you can see. Then we got another screen over here. So if you see me look here, there, and the other, so just pause for a second. Dr. King, am I now looking at you?
No, and I'm not looking at you.
Am I? But it looked like.
Now you're looking at, right then you were looking at me.
And now am I
Right
looking
then
at
you're
you?
looking at me.
Okay, I got it
Yes.
down. Because, woo, this
I don't know where to look
technology, I'm
either.
telling
Yeah, I'm
you.
telling you.
Okay, I'm looking at you. So if you see my eyes go left, right, up, and down, audience, or me and Dr. King, we are back here. We can see each other about 6 times, okay, in this back studio. Okay, so we try to work it out. So I got another thought and question for you. And this is really kind of coming back to thinking about us as Black women. What do you and calling upon yourself and as well as just your mom's legacy, what do you think Black women uniquely bring to this fight that no one else can?
Well, I think there are two things. The first thing is it's this stamina, this stick to itness, this determination and persistence, and this mission mindedness that you know, even when there's not a lot of support, um, we get it done. When the money is drying up, we don't quit. We try to figure it out. So often I
Mm-hmm.
think men calculate things financially. I mean, because men, many times, some men are heads of households and they feel that pressure. And so, they tend to tie things financially, but we're like, hey, rub a few little nickels together, we're gonna figure this out. And do whatever it takes to get it done. So there's this stick to itness that I think Black women bring to the struggle, and although most times never recognized, never applauded, we still hang in there, and fight to the end. We're not going to give up. That's
Mm-hmm.
look at Harriet. Look at Harriet Tubman. My God, I mean, look what she went through. The courage, the stamina, the endurance. The determination. I can't quit. No, I'm going back to get my parents. What are you talking about? I'm not stopping. We're gonna get this done. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so it's that. And the second thing that I want people to hear, and I thought about this a long time, um, when we're talking about progressing a nation and knowing that in order to do that, there has to be coalitions, there has to be alliances. Black women are the most inclusive of all groups. I want people to think about that. Black women go in the room thinking about not just Black women, they're thinking about everybody. And I haven't seen that in any other group of people. I mean, if you all have, please let me know. But I've never seen that. So, when we show up, you know it's going to get right because we are not going to create an environment, an atmosphere. And I'm not saying that they're not individual exceptions to what I'm saying, but I'm saying as a whole, you can rest assured that we're going to make sure the dots, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed to make sure that anyone who's left out is not left out. And we always show up to everybody else's cause and struggle. We're the only who consistently has shown up in every cause and every struggle. You cannot name a cause or a struggle that Black women have not shown up
Well,
in.
yeah, that's a
Even
powerful,
when
yeah.
we were overlooked, disregarded, not acknowledged, not given equal time and place, we we didn't step back and say, mm-mm. You know, we could continue, as I said, we continue to persist, move forward because we know the importance of getting it done. We've had to manage so much, through centuries, households, where there was no a male in the house. We, had to manage things even, on the plantation. Black women have just been, doing an awful lot forever. So I think that's what we uniquely bring to the struggle. Those are the two
Yeah,
things.
I love that. I mean, that inclusivity that you bring up, that inclusiveness, I think that's powerful. Just showing up for folks, understanding the
Yes.
pain, wanting to take pain away from other people, taking it on for yourself.
Mm.
And I think that's why we get weary.
Oftentimes too much yes, taking it
That's
on,
why we get weary.
wearing
Yeah,
everybody else's struggle. Yes,
we wearing everybody.
carrying it.
This is powerful.
We
So I have
carry
one
a
more.
nation.
Oh, we carry a nation. That is very true. I have one more question for me before I want to turn to, the country, and bring in some of those questions. So my last question for you that's coming from me is, my firstborn is 18 years old, and in about 3 months, she's about to go out into the world. I can't hold on to her. I can't. It's. I don't want to talk about it too much. I will have to turn my camera off. And they said, don't turn your camera off. But she's also a fighter. And so, what would you tell all of those 18-year-old girls? What piece of advice would you give those 18-year-old girls going out into the world, wanting to make a difference? What would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is believe what your mother told you.
Mm,
I think so many people don't, so many of us when we're growing up, we challenge our parents' advice, and guidance because we feel like, oh, they're old, they don't know. And I'm telling you, as I've gotten older, I've discovered that my mother was right more often than not. And it's the very thing that has helped me to become the person that I am. It saved me from major mistakes. So I would tell them, keep mama's advice with you. Don't set it aside. Um, draw upon that. Um, realize that, as I said earlier, excuse me, that there's a lot out there in the world that is going to try to draw your attention away from why you're on the earth.
mm,
Be careful because, you know, you are carrying greatness inside of you. You know, I tell young people all the time, and we know this to be true, and it's over a million. And I don't mean to express it this way, but out of million or more, in fact, sperm, you're the one that made it to the earth. You fought all through a lot of stuff to penetrate, and so you're here for a reason. Don't waste
mm-hmm.
time getting distracted on things that can take you down the wrong road. you know and align yourself with people who have a focus and a vision for their life as you develop your vision, because the people who don't have a vision, the Bible says if you don't have a vision you perish. So make sure you have friends who have a vision for their life,
Right.
because if not, you'll get off track for a little while. And
Mm-hmm.
have fun, but have cautious fun. Because all fun ain't good for you. I'm telling you.
True.
Just yes, be cautious in the fun. Um, and those are the things that I would say to these young ladies. And as my mother said to me, be your best self. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to outdo her. I think sometimes that's the negative side of the Black woman experience, is that we often try to compete with each other,
Right.
and outdo each other. And sometimes they're healthy competitions, but I'm talking about that negative stuff where we become like crabs in a barrel and we, clawing at each other and undermining each other and trying to sabotage each other, because, you know, we are not secure in our own identity and calling and recognition that I don't have to be her or her. I just have to be me and be my best
Mm-hmm.
me. And the only person that you compete with is yourself the day before. Outdo yourself the next day, but
Mm-hmm.
never feel the pressure, or never let the pressure that you might feel overpower you, to the point that you are not showing up to be your best self.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's powerful. We have to stick together and we have to bring each other up. We cannot, the
Mhm.
crabs in the barrel, it is so true and so painful. And I think when you start talking about it gets in the way of the place we're supposed to sit in. You know, I got my pen out because I'm taking notes and it takes, but I wanted to say
Mhm.
that crabs in the barrel really, we miss opportunities to really step into our full power in that moment in time that we are supposed to lead that movement. You know, we got our place and our time and our purpose, and we got to keep our eyes on the prize in such a major way. I got a couple more questions. I'm backing up a little bit from what I'm sharing, and I want to bring in a couple of questions from folks across the country. We have a question from Dolores. Wait, I'm gonna back up one quick second before I jump into that. You just, Dr. King, helped me wipe something off my lifetime bucket list. I think when I'm looking back on this conversation, 15 years from now, I'm going to truly feel no regret about the conversation we just had. And so I just really need to pause for a minute to just express how grateful I am just to have this time with you. I'm just so honored.
Thank you.
But again, I want to jump into some other questions. So this is from Dolores Wallace. Dolores Wallace, her question for you, Dr. King, is the past year has taken a toll on many families with children in school. What advice do you have for parents whose children are returning to school?
Mm. Wow. You know, we're all going to have to take it one day at a time, um, and go easy on ourselves through this process because I'm sure there's a lot of apprehension, a lot of fear. Um, and so, I would just say, for those who are spiritual, pray a lot. um, for those for those who are not, meditate, um, to gain your insight and your strength and stay. What I think should have happened in the pandemic, um, or hope happened in the pandemic, is that a lot of parents got to know their children better, and a lot of
They
children
did.
got to know their parents better. Don't lose that. Don't lose that. That is a valuable gem. Um, don't go back. Don't revert to the old behavior where you were so stuck in your world that you just missed your children. You know, things were happening right under your nose. And so stay close and connected even as they go back. Don't hover over them and, you know, uh, tower over them and not allow them the breathing room, but stay interested, you know, in their world because they're gonna have to process through a lot of this too. It's new and different and foreign, and yes, people feel relieved that hey, we can get back to being closer together, um, and but the reality is that that bond that has been established has to be maintained. It's the most important relationship in your life, the parent-child relationship. I mean, it's the only constant that we have. And I'm saying that as someone who lost my mom, don't have my mom now anymore, lost my father at age 5. And I know we just came out of Mother's Day, which is always very difficult for me. Um, but just continue to cherish the time because we don't know because it can be the opposite. Like some of these parents who have, tragically lost their children with these police killings. Um, Stay close to them. That's all I can say.
I think that is so important. I think that is amazing advice. And I think what I really took away from that is the first one is just taking it day by day. It goes back to how we are able to continue to heal, is that on day one, we don't need to have this whole thing figured out. And that second piece
Yeah.
that you said that really resonates has so much to do with what we built in Oakland, and that is parents are more activated around their kids' education and more connected than I think we've ever been. And we have to really make sure we don't lose that
Yes.
connection because we're coming together. How do we take those connections? How do we take parents' engagement and activation and take it to the next level, right? To really tighten those bonds. And you know what? Not just on a fight and advocacy level, but like you said, just on a love and connection level. I have a
Yeah,
dog
because
in my house.
we take that for granted.
We take that for
What
granted.
you
I
just
have
said
a
is
dog
what
in
we
my
take
house
for
now,
granted.
Dr. King. We take it for granted. I was saying, I have a dog in my house. I never thought I'd have a dog in my house. But in my spending time with my babies, and my youngest had a dog with his dad, and now that dog is with us half time, and I love him to death, and it's created a
Wow.
connection where we're able to walk and do things. And, it's amazing. And so, yeah, what you said it resonated so much. I have another question for you from Arlena Walker. So she says, in your book, Hard Questions, Heart Answers, Sermons and Speeches, you stated the church must return to its helping and healing mission. And each of us, looking into our hearts, must put aside our differences and remember that each human life is precious. Arlena's question is, why do you think the church has taken themselves out of the equation? And why is it such a challenge to value human life?
Y'all ask such hard questions.
Hard work, you know that.
Ooh, so let me see if I can remember the first and the second one. Why do you think the
I can,
church
yeah,
has taken
taking
itself
itself out of, yeah,
out of the equation? Is that the first question?
that was the first question, yes.
And the second one?
The second one is, why is
Second
it
part?
such a challenge? Why is it such a challenge to value human life?
Oh Lord, I'm gonna have to answer this one. It's quick. You know, I think as unfortunately, I think the church has followed the model and plan of the world. So whichever way the world goes, the church tries to go with it. And what I mean by that is we've lived through years of individualism in society. Me, myself, and I, you know, you achieving the American dream. Um, and I think the church got into this time period of this individualism being consumed within itself. And, there was some heavy emphasis at some point around prosperity gospel, get your next, your blessing is coming, etc. And got caught up in that instead of staying on the mission that the church has been called to, which is to advance the kingdom of God and really be the embodiment, the to reflect. I mean, which is the embodiment, the nature and character of Christ in culture, um, and that means those things in terms of making sure that our communities are not suffering economically the way that they're suffering. That some of these things that have been happening, you know, around education should not have been happening. That, we were supposed to be more aligned and connected, with a lot of different organizations and groups and making sure that we're bringing the moral force to all of this. And so I just think out of the equation because lost somewhat of our way as a whole. Um, and so, but there are churches that have been present because had it not been for the church in so many people's lives, I think some people would have been crazy by now through even the pandemic. I mean, even though we people couldn't gather, it was the church that found a way through technology to still connect to people and help them to still feel valuable, to still feel important, and to still be enriched. And so I don't want to discount the importance of the church, but I do think that it's going to have to find its way back, kind of like my father. You know, the work that they did was out of the church. A lot of people don't know that because we call him a civil rights leader all the time. I don't know why we call my father a civil rights leader. He was actually a pastor. I mean, I just have to clear that up. He was a pastor, and all he wanted to do was to be a great pastor, and he pastored the world.
Mm.
He pastored our nation, and he was able to come out of the confines of a pulpit, and put on, the necessary clothes, literally, physically, that he needed to put on, and also put on the necessary humanity that he needed to connect to people in the conditions that people were faced with. So that's the first question. The second one is, why is it such a challenge to value human life?
Yep.
Wow. You know, I go back to the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, and any other, experiences, religious, in terms of our faith traditions. Um, I don't think we've done a good job to teach the value out of those spiritual places. That everybody, in the Christian faith, we talk about Imago Dei, that everybody's creating the image and after the likeness of God. So they are to be valued, they are to be respected, they're to be regarded. I don't think we teach that enough, you know. And I think we've got to get to a place where, because who else is going to teach it? The value of human life. It has to come. It has to come out of the faith traditions. And so, I think that's why where we are today. And then those of us who are leaders and have platforms of influence, have to talk about that more. We have to be comfortable with that, talking about human life and the value of it and what that means, and people feel like they're doing it in different ways. And that's, we get a little friction and tension in our society around that, because there are those who are in the Christian faith who believe that life begins in the womb to the tomb. And so they figure they value life from beginning to end, and that the other people don't value life, believe in pro-choice. And how do we wrestle with that? How do we reconcile all of that and still feel that people value life? That's what we got to get through those kinds of discussions.
Thank you. That's powerful. It is. And I think about, I grew up in the Baptist church, and I gotta speak on that. I'm not in the church like I was raised to be, but what I will share is that those early values that were taught to me at a young age, not just in the church, but at home. I think what's important is what's also at home. All those values taught at
Hmm.
home, then that gets passed down. So even if your life is structured a little bit differently, you still carry the values, right, of love and family and community. I think that's, for me, led to so much of why I do this work, because of what I saw my grandmama and all the other mamas in the church doing to support and help each other. When folks were sick, they call upon that, they had the sick list, and you would call and you would go visit and you go sit by folks' bedsides. Like, that sense of community, I think at that time, they don't always realize how those gestures, and a kid sees it, depending on what you call to do, it can turn into something even bigger. Because what it's called upon is we help our people, we help our people and we stand by our people. And so, it's a powerful, powerful
Can
statement.
I can I can I can I can I add one other thing? Because my father spoke
Yeah,
about this too.
please.
That the tension between the immaterial and the material is also a challenge. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of it. Wrong relationship with it. And I think because going back to culture and this whole movement towards greater materialism overtaking our society. And so stuff and things become more important than people. That's why somebody can take your life, just to get your watch or your pocketbook or whatever. Um, because materialism has overtaken our world. Capitalism has gone out of control. And my father cautioned us against that when he wrote his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos of Community, in the last chapter, World House, where he said we must have a revolution of values in our nation. And he said, we must quickly, rapidly, is the word he used, begin the shift from a thing oriented society to a person centered society.
Mm.
And unfortunately, we've allowed profit motives, machines, computers, and everything to be much more important than the value of a person. And again, I call the church forth to help us to understand those things. Those are the immaterial things that, like, you know, material stuff can be replaced. You know, we're invaluable, and we have to teach people that very early on, that a person's value exceeds the material, and we got to respect that and not violate that.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very, very true. Dr. King, we have been talking almost 45 minutes, and I just want so much more time with you, but we only got a few more minutes. And what I would just love to do, because we've taken in so much wisdom and so much knowledge, I think the last thing I really want to ask you is, what do you do to find joy? What do you do that like gives you joy? And not, in the hard times and the good times, but people are feeling heavy. And like I said, you just helped take several bricks off my shoulder. So I think I'm being a little greedy here, where I'm saying, give me some more, give us some more, right? And that really
So,
is how I need, I know, but it's like, how do you find joy? How do you find joy?
I've had to learn in the last year since the pandemic, because I almost went crazy, literally, when this first started. I had to get my mind together so that I didn't lose it, because the thought of us being confined was driving me crazy. So what I had to do is, outside of my own spiritual way of doing things through prayer and all of that, I had to make sure that I had people in my life who were lighter, who didn't take themselves so serious. I had to keep them
Mm,
close to me. People who have a sense of humor, and and who like to laugh. So I have to balance my life, because I'm very serious minded. Um, and if I don't have those
mm,
people in my life, then my God, I don't know what would happen to me. So find you some folks. You got to have you some cheerleaders, some comedians. You know what I'm saying? Some foolish girl, you crazy in your life. You got to. I mean, just to keep you laughing. And sometimes even on serious things, I have to literally laugh to keep from crying.
yeah.
I do it on purpose. Some things you just have to do on purpose, you know. And so I encourage people to please do that. I'm very serious. I got this lady that's was 15 when the movement started. Excuse me, 12 when the movement started in Montgomery, um, and worked with Rosa Parks. I think she was one of the youth directors, and helped to pass out some of the flyers. She's a 70-some-year-old woman now. She and I are very close. And when I tell you she's the funniest lady that I know, she keeps me in stitches. And sometimes I just call her just for that reason,
Mm-hmm.
because she finds some of the most humorous stuff and says the funniest stuff. And from time to time, I get a chance to go to Alabama, and I'm hanging out with an older woman, yeah, because she's like a young person, you know. And we've played these card games that are so hilarious. So please, you all, please surround yourself with some balance in your life so that they can help you find the joy, and purposely look, find some things on social media that make you laugh. There's some things on social media that can make you laugh as well. I mean, they just keep you in stitches. Yep.
That's right. I did not expect you to say that, Dr. King. I did not expect you to say that. And once again, that was right on time. Because I'm funny. I come from a funny family, but this work, it makes you serious. When you got responsibilities,
Yeah,
you could tend to be more serious than you would be. And so just you saying, make sure you surround yourself in that balance, it just one reminds me to keep joking and being funny, but also, like I said, just not taking ourselves so seriously all the time. We take ourselves way too seriously.
exactly.
And we take ourselves way too seriously. Well, wow, we right at time. We are right at time. I just want to, Dr. King, I just want to thank you so much. Again, I tried to picture myself in this whole conversation sitting in your living room. And maybe I got to put this out in the universe. Who
Maybe
knows?
one
Maybe one
day.
day I will be sitting in your living room because I'm funny. Dr. King, I'm funny. That's my mama. And if you need funny people, I'll bring my grandmama 7 Up cake. I'll bring my grandmama 7 Up cake. Okay. That should get me in the front door at least.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
But
Okay. I
but
appreciate it.
I want to thank Dr. King. Dr. King, thank you for being here. National Parents Union, Carrie Rodriguez. Like you said, my Aquarius sister girl, I call you. I got to hit my astrology in here before we wrap up. I just want to thank you for allowing me to have this time with Dr. King. I'll never forget this. Like I said, my grandmama's watching, my mama is watching, my daughter's watching. So, I'm gonna be a cool person in the family for a little bit just because I got to have this conversation. So I'm gonna pass
Thank you
this,
so much.
Carrie, and just thank you, Dr. King, and I'm gonna pass it back to you, Carrie. Is this what we do now? I pass it back to you.
That's what